If you want to create that lifestyle for you and your family, this is the perfect way to build that extra income stream to that six-figure income. And all you need is a couch to get started.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
Hello and welcome to episode 43. Every year in February, the Rental Property Owners Association hosts Michigan's largest free real estate investor and landlord conference and expo. This year's conference is going to be held over 3 days in February of 2017, February 23rd through 25th. And we're going to have 7 national speakers, as well as breakout sessions that are packed full of current wealth building strategies and techniques. So if you're within traveling distance of Grand Rapids, which is West Michigan, this is the event that you don't want to miss. And I'm very excited to be talking today with one of our nationally recognized experts who will be speaking to the group on February 24th. It's Friday, February 24th of 2017. Sue Hoyuela is an expert in vacation rentals and is going to share with us the secret to doubling your rental income without tenants by converting your rentals into Airbnb cash cows. Sue, thanks so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So this whole concept of Airbnb rentals is really fascinating to me, and I'm really looking forward to you coming to our conference in February. But before we get into that, why don't you tell me and our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to the realization that doing this was such a great idea?
Oh, man. It's kind of interesting the turns that life takes. I was actually a loan processor. I had my own loan processing business back in 2008 when the real estate bubble essentially burst in my face. I feel like I was on the front lines. I was processing loans like a madwoman, closing, 30, 60 a month. And in 30 days, we went from this incredible pipeline to zero. And that's when we knew that the market had changed. So I actually had to face reality and go back and get a real job after about 2 years of waiting for the real estate market to come back. I laugh because I know that, we're all in the same boat together as real estate investors. And so many people have sort of a PTSD kind of a story of where were they when the real estate bubble burst. And a lot of similar stories. We've lost property, we went into debt, waited for the real estate market to come back, tried to figure out what do we do now. And so my story took me back to a real job to work for a boss, which was a real low point because after you've been your own boss, it's really tough to go back and work for someone else. Maybe you can relate. I don't know. Some of your listeners can.
Yeah, I know that, having left a full-time job, the idea of going back to it would be pretty daunting to me.
Right. I guess also I've always been an entrepreneur, like seeking that perfect business where you work for yourself and you make enough money to have the free time and the money to do what you want to do, to enjoy life. And that's always been my vision, my goal, to create my world the way I wanted it to be. As a loan processor, I was pretty darn close to that, being able to be my own boss and manage my time the way I wanted and having the money to enjoy it. So when it came to going back to work for a boss, that was a pretty soul-sucking moment to have to go back and submit to the boss that could tell me, when I could go on vacation and when I could take time off. And, oh, you're an hour late coming back from lunch, and things like that. Oh, my goodness. So, but it turned out that was the cloud with the silver lining because one day one of our vendors came into my office and told me that he and his wife owned a duplex in Hollywood and that she had this little hobby where she would rent out half to vacationing guests, and the money she made from that covered their whole mortgage. And right there, my ears perked up, and I went, wait a minute, how do you make enough to cover your whole mortgage? Tell me more about that. And that was the day he told me Airbnb was the website that she used to make that kind of income. So my husband and I, because we had waited for the real estate market to come back for like 2 years, we'd gone through our savings, we'd lost properties, we'd gone deep into debt, and we were looking for a way to get back out of debt at that point. So I went home and I told him, why don't we just try this Airbnb thing? Thinking, is anybody even out there? Is anybody going to see this listing? Who in the world would want to come and stay in the suburbs of Los Angeles? We had all these doubts, but we just had nothing to lose. So we said, why not? Let's try it. So that's how we accidentally stumbled across Airbnb. And from that point on, it just changed our lives.
Can you talk about some of the economics of Airbnb and how they compare to renting out your property?
Oh, absolutely. We have a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, and we were considering other ways to make extra income. And we started actually by renting to international students who were coming to LA from all around the world to learn English. And that was paying us a little bit of money every month.
So you were renting out rooms to them?
Right. We're renting out individual rooms. And it didn't pay that well. So we started thinking, what if we just do a normal rental? We rent to a full-time person who just rents one of the rooms in our house. And at that time, the going rate was about $500 a month. So when we started doing Airbnb and we started charging by the night, we discovered that instead of making $500 a month for one room, we were actually generating $1,500 a month for that same room. And that just blew our minds. That is where the true power of Airbnb comes in, is that the short-term rentals generate double or triple the rental income that you can get from a regular long-term tenant.
I guess it would help to go back and just talk about what is Airbnb, because some of our listeners may not know what you're talking about. What is Airbnb and where do you find it?
Oh, you know what? They are not alone. It's amazing. Airbnb is a website. It began in 2008. 3 college students were up in the Bay Area and they were they were going to go to a conference, but there was nothing available. They couldn't find a hotel room. It was packed solid, and they were like joking around saying, man, you know what? At this point, I'm so desperate, I would rent an airbed on someone's floor. I just need a place to stay. And boom, the idea of Airbnb was born, which stands for airbed and breakfast. So they said, why don't we create a website that people with extra space can rent it out, and regular people can come and stay at their house. And, it's a win-win situation. The person renting the space makes some extra money, and the people looking for a place to stay get a unique experience. And it took them a few years to get some traction because they needed a critical mass of people with places to stay and enough awareness of people needing a place to stay to be able to find that. And it's a great story if you go on the internet and you can read about how they finally hit that. It was a cute little marketing gimmick that they used with cereal that kind of launched the awareness, and it took off. So now it's becoming popular, but it's amazing how many people still haven't heard of it to this day. How many people are just brand new to trying it out. And Airbnb has become an alternative for people who would rather not stay in a hotel for many reasons. Maybe if you're going to a place to vacation, you want a unique experience. You want to really understand what it's like to live like a local. Well, now you can stay in someone's home and get that insider experience. Or maybe you're trying to save money because you're traveling for a long time and hotels can get quite expensive. Well, if you stay in someone's home, it can be more affordable. Plus, you usually get access to a kitchen so you can make your own meals. You have access to the washer dryer. You can do laundry. You have free Wi-Fi. A lot of amenities that you might not have in a hotel. So these things become value added that help you travel longer and enjoy your vacationing more. So lots of reasons people are choosing Airbnb, and it's not going to put hotels out of business by any means, but it's just another option now that people have, and it's amazing. It's so fun to be on the traveling side and on the hosting side.
So that's a great explanation of Airbnb. Are there other websites or services that offer a similar type service?
That's what's interesting. Airbnb is essentially a booking engine. it's just a tool, just like you would use QuickBooks or something like that. So there's actually dozens of these booking engines out there. The most popular one I think most people have heard of is VRBO. That stands for Vacation Rental by Owner. That was around many years ago, way before Airbnb came along, that people with a whole house vacation rental could just rent it out to vacationing guests while they were out of town for like a week or two. And that was how the whole industry sort of got started. Since then, many others have popped up. Wimdu, Nine Flats, TripAdvisor, FlipKey. You can even use Expedia. There's bookings.com, so many of them out there. And in fact, in the beginning, when I first started doing Airbnb, I wanted to make sure that I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. And I tried at least a dozen of these different websites. And each one of them, in one way or another, just turned out to be a complete disaster. And Airbnb was the only one that had the most robust set of tools to make it easy as a host and as a guest to book a place to stay, to make it safe and trustworthy for both parties, and to make sure that the money was always transferred securely. I mean, they just fired on all cylinders, and they've been the one booking engine that has allowed me to actually take this to a six-figure income level.
Are you able to talk about how you've taken this to a six-figure income level? I mean, what process you've gone through and what that looks like?
Sure. I guess it's part of having an entrepreneurial spirit. And I quit my job after just doing Airbnb for 9 months. We discovered that it was a steady year-round income, and it was enough to replace my income as a manager. So I was able to quit that job that took 60 hours a week and trade it for a vacation rental bed and breakfast business I was running out of my home, taking 10 hours a month. And then with that extra time, I started exploring other ways you could use this amazing tool called Airbnb. And I discovered 6 different business models that you can use it for. And there's probably more out there. But I started by, of course, renting rooms in my own house. Then I started renting whole house rentals, which are the standard vacation rental most people are familiar with. Also corporate rentals. I discovered that this works fantastic for timeshares. You can also use it as an amazing income generating tool by providing reservation management services. And there were 2 other models that I discovered. The other was renting other people's property. That became an amazing way to leverage real estate without having to go out and purchase properties, but simply by renting someone else's property and then doing Airbnb with that.
Oh, so you would just rent a unit or a house somewhere and then do an Airbnb inside of it, huh?
Exactly. So the startup capital was much less than purchasing property, and it was a great way to try before you buy. So you get in there and you see the property and you get familiar with it, and then at the end, if you want to purchase it, you can. Or if you say, wow, this has a lot of things that needs work on, I'd rather not, you can give it right back to the landlord and move on to the next. And then the last model was for property managers who are doing traditional property management. They can add Airbnb vacation rental management services to their repertoire and create multiple streams of income and increase their income at the same time, because if they work on a percentage basis, they make more money for the landlord as a vacation rental, and then they get a higher percentage of a bigger chunk of money. So those are just the 6 business models that I've discovered and developed. But every time I talk to somebody else who's doing vacation rentals and Airbnb, they've got a different angle they're coming at it from. And it's just like a kid in a candy store, like how there's no wrong way to use Airbnb. It's so much fun.
For the investors who are listening to you right now, how do they decide which model would be best for them?
That's a good question. I have a system that I like to use. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit system. So based on your return on investment, whatever's going to have the lowest barrier to entry, the lowest amount of capital to invest, that'll generate your highest return. the easiest way to get in is if you already own properties and you've got maybe some empty vacant properties. You can just put in some furniture and off you go, and you're doing vacation rentals generating incredible returns. That would be the easiest way to get started, by just starting with empty properties or underperforming properties that you already own. Then timeshares has been a very lucrative, my second choice that I like to do. The one thing that I've done that's been pretty unique, I guess, that a lot of people tend to hesitate with, is renting rooms in your own home. So that's how I got started, and I think because of my background with renting to international students, it was a very comfortable fit for me. A lot of people say, "Oh, how do you let strangers stay in your house?" And that's a big fear for a lot of people, when the reality is that's actually the most rewarding, the most enriching part of Airbnb is the people that you meet. So for me, the low-hanging fruit is to just start using space in your own home. And that's one of the things that Airbnb allows you to do where many of the other booking engines don't. Most of them require that you start with a whole house rental. But Airbnb will let you break it down, where you can rent individual rooms or even spaces. And that's where I've gotten to get into it with, I call myself the queen of being creative with space, because you can start renting a closet, a couch, a tent in the backyard, a tree house, a boat, anything that you control, you can start renting on Airbnb and generating amazing income. So that's where it's really fun for me, but a lot of people don't necessarily want to start there.
It really seems like Airbnb is sort of non-discriminatory as to what type of lodging you're offering. I mean, if you can rent out a boat or a car, are they saying, okay, anywhere you can rent that people can, sleep for the night is okay? Or is it more of a all-around service where it's not just offering, a place to sleep, but maybe a car that you can use while you're in town, or a boat that you can use while you're near a lake or something? I mean, are they offering more than just lodging?
It's actually just lodging. So their emphasis is on where will people sleep. So if you're renting a boat, it's not that they drive the boat around, it's docked, and then they sleep in it. So there's actually other websites like Airbnb that do allow you to rent your car out and things like that, which is a whole different topic. But it's all part of something they're calling the sharing economy, that there are these websites that allow regular people to rent out what they have with other regular people who need to rent it, whether it be a car or if they need a handyman or cleaning services or a place to stay. There's different websites for each of those different niches. So Airbnb is primarily focused on a place to sleep and doesn't include the driving it around or moving it around if it does move. If you go on Airbnb, there's a subcategory called the littlest things, and they have a whole, what would you call that? Like a gallery of all the different things that people are renting on Airbnb that are very, very tiny. So one of the things that they've actually focused on is my cozy cabin that we began with back in 2011. And it's a tiny little 10 by 12 shed in the backyard that we've turned into a cute little cabin with some curtains and some flower pots. And it's very small, but because of that, it's kind of unique, and it attracts a certain type of traveler that wants a unique experience. And when you go through that gallery, you see other things that people are renting that are just really tiny. And then there's all sorts of different categories. People can rent castles and igloos, and I mean, there's just no limit. But it's whatever you want to rent that people can sleep in for the night. Yes.
Wow, so you can get pretty creative with what you might have to offer.
Yes, and that's where it gets really fun, and you can start doing themes, and oh my goodness, yes.
Wow. Now, can you find a place anywhere through Airbnb, or is it only located in certain cities?
That's kind of what's cool about Airbnb is that, when it comes to property, they always say location, location, location. Well, Airbnb has blown that out of the water. They're in 192 countries around the world. I had to go to a wedding in Guam, and there were dozens of Airbnbs in Guam. I know friends of mine have fantastic Airbnbs in the Philippines, Costa Rica, Mazatlan, Italy, all around the world. A friend of mine, he lives here and he has his Airbnb in Costa Rica. So no matter where you are, there is a demand for travelers for Airbnb. And that's what's just been amazing to me. Also because when we started, we live in Los Angeles, which is, oh wow, everybody wants to go to Los Angeles on vacation. But we're nowhere near Hollywood or Santa Monica, the places that people really want to be. We're 26 miles away from those areas. We're almost in Orange County. But when people look at a map, they see that our city is actually 30 minutes to Disneyland to the south and 30 minutes to Universal Studios to the west, and we look very centrally located. And as long as you're going to have a car in LA anyways, that looks pretty good. So the distance, you don't have to be right on top of whatever that theme park or amusement park or convention is that people are coming into town for. You could be within a 30-minute radius and still do fantastic with Airbnb. So that's where it's opening up opportunities for investors who are looking for their next property. Or maybe they have a property that they just don't know what to do with and they're tired of renting to full-time tenants. And because of their location, it could be an Airbnb gold mine. This would be a great opportunity for them to explore that.
So for those of our listeners who really like what you're saying, but don't own any property right now, any type of rental property, what would you advise them to look for if they're going to consider the Airbnb model?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's not an easy question to answer because they have to kind of work through a system of identifying who comes into town and what they come into town for, and then creating the space that fits that niche perfectly. That's one of the things that I do in my coaching is help people discover who their ideal guest is and then design their Airbnb to fit that niche so that they can attract more visitors and make more money.
You've also written a book. Do you mind talking about that?
Oh, no, yeah, I'd love to mention that. The book is called How to Make Quick Cash from Your Couch. And it was inspired by when I had been looking for decades for a business that would create financial freedom for me and my family. And when I discovered Airbnb and how it created that financial freedom for me so quickly, in 9 months, I was able to quit my job and start living the life I had always dreamed of. I was like, everybody has to know about this. Oh my gosh. So I wrote a book called How to Make Quick Cash from Your Couch, just to let people know that this is the low-hanging fruit. Because when you want to start a business, usually you've got to have a lot of capital and there's contracts involved and all kinds of hoops to jump through. But Airbnb lets you throw a blanket and a pillow on your couch and you're in business. And you can make an extra $1,000 a month to get started. So if you want to create that lifestyle for you and your family and you don't have a lot of extra time, this is the perfect way to get started, to build that extra income stream that's going to get you free from a boss so that you can continue to build it up to that six-figure income to live the lifestyle of your dreams. And all you need is a couch to get started. So in my book, I write about the steps to take to follow that path to get there as quickly as you want to. And it can be done in 7 days. You could be up and running. If it's just a room in your house. If you have a whole house rental and you have to furnish it, that takes the longest. So it could be up and running in 30 days or less. And you're going to start seeing income that you cannot believe. And with that money, you can just keep on growing your business however large you want it to be. So that was my passion, to get my message out to the world and say, you guys, this is the way to that financial freedom you've been looking for.
What are some of the risks to consider in renting out space or using it for Airbnb purposes?
Oh my goodness, some of the risks. That's a really interesting question because there are a lot of fears, I guess. People have fears about having strangers in their house. People have fears about what about the insurance. Airbnb has taken care of every single aspect of those fears to make it safe for everyone. So essentially, it's become risk-free. They've got a review system built in so that at the end of every stay, the host reviews the guest and the guest reviews the host. And their review system is tamper-proof. A lot of the other booking engines out there, you can upload whatever you want into the reviews, and they're not very bulletproof, not very trustworthy. But Airbnb's is so well designed that the reviews you receive become part of your reputation. And it's almost like a look into the future of being able to trade on your reputation capital. I mean, we're in a review era now. I mean, look at eBay and TripAdvisor and Expedia, and everybody's reviewing everything. Where now, if you provide a fantastic service, they're going to let the world know about that. And if you don't, and if you don't stay on your best behavior, that's going to make it hard for you to continue to consume those services that you want. So the review system has created a safe environment for everyone. And Airbnb is also providing insurance now for hosts, $1 million host guarantee to cover vandalism and theft. So if anything's damaged, it's taken care of. And also they cover liability. If anybody is injured, they've got insurance to cover that.
So it seems like one of the risks is that if you're not very good at hosting an Airbnb space, you might get terrible reviews and no one will want to stay with you.
There you go. Right.
Well, what about the money aspect? Who exchanges money? Is it all done through Airbnb, or do you have to collect it from the people who are staying there?
Oh, that's one of the great things about Airbnb is they handle it all. There's other websites out there, the booking engines, that they tell you, you have a guest coming now, good luck trying to collect the money. And they leave it up to you. Airbnb has that locked in. They are a payment processing service. So they will process the credit card. They will go back to the guest if it's declined until they've got that payment locked in. And they will not confirm the reservation with you until the payment is secure. Then once the stay begins, Airbnb will collect that money and transfer it and directly deposit it into the host's account 24 hours after the stay begins automatically. So the money aspect is a non-issue. It's automated and it's just so freeing because some of those other websites, imagine you have the guest showing up at your door and you're like, hi, welcome, pay me. Here, where's your credit card? Swipe here. It's just no. So when you have Airbnb and the payment's already taken care of, the guests come to your home and you can welcome them. It's like friends coming to stay. So they've taken care of that aspect. And that's one of the huge benefits that I really love about Airbnb.
And what sort of cut does Airbnb get?
They are awesome. They put their money where their mouth is. They don't charge you anything to use their website. They only get paid if they deliver a guest to you. So they put all of their effort into doing all the marketing for you to the world. And believe me, they will bring the world to your door. So once you have a guest, they will take just 3% from any bookings that you get on the host side. They charge the guests a percentage as well, but that varies. But as a host, all you have to give them is 3%, and that is a small price to pay for all that they do to market and handle the payments for you and take care of all the insurances and all the risks for you.
What about sales tax? Do they take care of that as well?
There's not a sales tax, but sometimes there's an occupancy tax. And one of the great things that they're doing now with many, many cities, Los Angeles included, is collecting the tax automatically for any bookings within that city. albeit that has to be initiated by the city. They need to go to Airbnb and say, we'd like you to collect our occupancy tax for us, please. And then Airbnb will implement they'll put a little small snippet of code onto every listing in that city, automatically collect the tax from the guest and remit it directly to the city so that it doesn't affect the host in any way. And it hasn't slowed down the demand in any way either. Guests are still happy to pay it because of the experience and the value that they're getting. So it's a very easy solution to collecting tax. And I think that's one of the reasons that Airbnb and the sharing economy is here to stay, because they're finding a way to make it a win-win situation for everyone. And it's a booming economy, the short-term rental economy. And this is the perfect time for people to get in on it, because it's just starting to make that hockey stick move of growth. So if people are thinking about getting in, this would be the time.
Well, let's use LA as an example, because you live in LA or near LA. I used to live in LA.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. I lived in Santa Monica. And I know we have a lot of listeners who are in the Los Angeles area. What tensions have there been with the city regarding Airbnb, and because California is kind of like the epicenter of where everything starts, and then it rolls out to the rest of the country. What have they had to resolve about this issue, and have they been able to resolve all of the issues that the city might have with Airbnb?
Oh, that's a really good question, especially in these turbulent times. Right now we're in October. November 8th is Election Day. The city of LA, there was a vote to put a measure on the ballot to limit Airbnb short-term rentals for whole houses and individual rooms. But it has yet to be determined what the vote will show on November 8th, which way we go on that. So it's interesting, too, because the city of LA just signed an agreement with Airbnb to collect that occupancy tax on their behalf. So now the city of LA has a vested interest in a larger amount of tax would be helping the city more. So why limit the stays? So we're in this interesting time right now, waiting to see how that vote is going to go. But if they choose to not limit the short-term stays, then the city of LA will win, and win big, because they'll be getting a larger portion of tax from that. It's sort of going back and forth. And I guess it's sort of like the Wild West right now. When anything new comes on the scene, there's always somebody saying we should regulate this. And so it's only just becoming big enough that it bears that much attention. And so there are people trying to create laws, and it's so new. It's such a gray area. It's between the long-term rentals and hotels. It's not one or the other. So they're starting to figure out ways that they can regulate and manage it so that it becomes a win-win situation for everybody moving forward. So for some, they're sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how this is going to go. But for me, it hasn't affected my business in any way, actually, and I'm in LA. So I see the future as very bright, and it will shake out. The industry is here to stay, and we're just going to have to wait to see what the laws turn out to be that continue to guide us, just like regular full-time rentals. They're constantly making new laws as new issues come up, but it's not going away. It's just continuing to evolve. So the same thing with the short-term rental market. So I don't think there's any reason to hold back, actually. Now is the best time to get in. And, if the laws come along and they say do this or do that, then we just flow with it and get the permits they require or pay the taxes they require. But it's such a lucrative niche, and it's such a freeing niche for the financial freedom that it gives you, that is worth any amount of risk at this point, to just keep moving forward with it and shift and change with it as it goes. The
shared economy and the Internet of Things, it's here to stay, and it's really, you just can't turn back that tide. I mean, you look at Uber and the problems they've had. This is a very similar type concept. And it's only going to get bigger and more prevalent as we go forward.
Exactly.
Tell me again the name of your book.
It's called How to Make Quick Cash from Your Couch. And it's available on Amazon. It's also in a Kindle version if people want to just download it and read it on their Kindle. And it's packed with information so people can get started right away with their Airbnb if they're ready to rock and roll. But I'm also really looking forward to coming out to the conference and sharing this with investors because I know that I've heard a lot of landlords talking about the frustrations that they go through with their tenants. And, some are just at the point of wanting to throw in the towel. And to them I say, wait, hold on. You probably have a gold mine there that you don't even realize. And they tell me, but I don't want to be a landlord anymore. And I say, that's fine, because what I want to show you is how to become a short-term rental automation master. And by using short-term rentals and systems to automate, especially Airbnb, the tools they give people are so robust. You can completely automate a vacation rental business and create the life that you've always dreamed of. People that get into real estate, it's not because they want to own a bunch of property, it's the lifestyle that they're looking for, that passive income. And some have, come away discouraged because it didn't pan out the way they expected. But with short-term rentals now as a new opportunity, part of the sharing economy, it's changing the game, and it's providing a new opportunity in real estate. And by learning how to use the tools available to you, you can actually double and triple the rental income that you dreamed of and get to your goals even faster. So I'm looking forward to sharing the secrets to making a six-figure income through Airbnb with the folks who come out in February out to the conference in Michigan.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing you speak as well, Sue. You're going to be there. This is going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Friday, February 24th, 2017. I think it's a fascinating topic. I'm really looking forward to learning more from you. Thanks so much for sharing it with us on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.